for someone who grew up in the Philippines. And
the ball is still in the air when Alex Eala becomes the first Filipina ever in a Wimbledon round of 16.
I want to train with brother and my grandfather every day after school with my ruffled socks and my light-up shoes and chubby cheeks.
It is a running cross-court forehand, struck from wide of the tramline, and for one long half-second on center court on Saturday, the 4th of July, 2026, nobody in the building is quite sure whether it will land. The scoreboard already reads 6-2 in the second set. The first set was decided by a tie-break. She won 11 points to 9, saving set points along the way. This is the third match point she has had in this final game. She has just saved 4 break points to get to it. And now the ball is traveling, and the defending champion of Wimbledon, Iga Swiatek.
I don't particularly know her game on grass. No challenge for me because, yeah, she doesn't give that rhythm.
Is stranded on the wrong side of the court, and the whole of southwest London is holding its breath, and so is a country of roughly 110 million people, 7,000 miles away. Then the ball lands inside the line, then the roar arrives, and then the record book quietly rewrites itself. To understand what just happened, you have to hold 2 facts next to each other. 16 months ago, in March of 2025, Alex Eala walked onto a court in Miami ranked 140th in the world, a wildcard entry, 19 years old, and beat Iga Swiatek for the first time. Today, she is the 29th seed at Wimbledon, ranked 32nd in the world, with a career high of 29th reached earlier this season. That is the arc from wildcard to seed, from footnote to fixture, roughly 400 days. And in that window, the country she represents went from having never won a main draw match at Wimbledon in the entire Open era to watching one of its own dismantle the defending champion on the sport's most famous lawn. The tension in this story is not the one the headline suggests. The word shock is doing a lot of work. Yes, the loss is being written up by The Independent as the biggest upset of the fortnight so far. Yes, Swiatek entered as the 3rd seed, as a 6-time Grand Slam champion, as the woman who won last year's Wimbledon final 6-love, 6-love. But the real tension is older and quieter than any single afternoon. It is the ceiling that no Filipino tennis player, man or woman, had ever broken through. Before Monday of this week, no Filipino had ever won a main draw match at Wimbledon. Before Wednesday, no Filipino had ever reached the 3rd round of any Grand Slam in the Open era. Before Saturday, no Filipino had ever seen the 2nd week of a major from the inside. Every previous wave of Philippine tennis had stopped at some earlier station on the same track. Eala had already broken 3 ceilings in 5 days. The Swiatek match was the 4th. It is worth pausing on how Swiatek herself framed this before they walked out. Asked in the days leading up to the match about facing Eala on grass, she said honestly that she did not particularly know Eala's game on this surface. She had watched a little. She knew how Eala played on hard and clay because they had already met twice, 1 win each. But grass was fresh. That is not a champion being casual. That is a champion telling the truth about the one surface where her Wimbledon record has been strangely fragile. 3 third-round exits in 5 years, now including this one. The tension then was never Eala against a system that owed her something. It was Eala against a specific problem on a specific afternoon against a specific opponent who happened to be one of the great players of her generation. The system did not tilt. Eala solved the problem. The evidence begins on paper, and on paper the match should not have been close. Swiatek was the 3rd seed and the defending champion. Eala was seeded 29th, playing her first career Wimbledon match as a seed, and playing on the surface where she had the least tour-level history of the 3. Their head-to-head was 1-1. Books would have called this a step up in class, but the paper never plays the match. And this one lasted 2 hours and 14 minutes, and the shape of it was set by the first set alone, which lasted 1 hour and 24 minutes on its own, longer than some full best-of-3 matches finish in. That first set was decided by a 20-point tiebreak. Eala won it 11-9. She saved set points inside it, and on her 4th set point, she forced Swiatek's forehand wide with a rally ball that gave gave the pole nowhere to go. That is not a lucky first set. That is a first set won by the player who was slightly cleaner under pressure, slightly deeper on the return, slightly more willing to hit through the point rather than around it. Then came the second set, and the second set explained the first. Both players took a lengthy off-court break after the tiebreak. Eala came out and broke to love. Then she broke again for a double break. Swiatek, to her credit, broke back once and threatened to break again. But at 15-40 down, Eala won a return point that ended with Swiatek missing a backhand volley, and the double break was restored. That is the shape of the tape. Now the numbers, because the numbers explain what the naked eye can miss. Across the two sets, according to the match feed reported by Olympics.com, Eala broke Swiatek 5 separate times. She won 68% of points on Swiatek's second serve. Swiatek, one of the cleanest ball strikers in the modern game, committed 44 unforced errors. Eala committed 21. That is not a match Eala stole in the tiebreak. That is a match Eala controlled point by point by point with cleaner tennis on the aggressor's side of the court. And the numbers matter because they answer the question the headline invites. Was this a fluke? Read that error count again. 21-44. No, it wasn't. Let this next sentence breathe. Somewhere between the 5th break of serve and the 3rd match point, in the space of one long game near the end, this story stopped being a scoreline and started being a person. The final cluster of evidence is not a statistic, it is a game and then a sentence. The game came first, the last one Eala had to win. She reached match point 3 separate times inside it. She saved 4 break points along the way. In total, she played 17 points in that single game, a game that on paper takes 4. On the 17th point, on her 3rd match point, she ran into a defensive position wide of the tram line and produced a forehand winner cross-court, sweeping, angled, unreachable. Olympics.com's own description of the moment is worth borrowing exactly. It triggered, they wrote, an eruption of ecstasy across southwest London and the Philippines. Now the sentence. It came a few minutes later on center court, microphone in her hand, still catching her breath.
I've been to the second week of a slam and it's amazing for me.
I've never been to the second week of a Grand Slam, she said, and it's amazing for me. Then in the same interview, she said this.
I went to train with brother and my grandfather every day after school with my ruffled socks and my light-up shoes and chubby cheek.
I went to train with my brother and grandfather every day after school with my ruffled socks and shoes and my chubby cheeks. This is everything. And then this goes out to all the little girls with ruffled socks and chubby cheeks. It means the world. That is not a media-trained line. That is a 21-year-old professional athlete speaking to a stadium, and whether she consciously arranged it or not, doing the thing that only she could do in that moment. She named the child on the court. She stood in the seed's shoes and pointed at the kid in the ruffled socks and told the world they were the same person. This is what the record book cannot show. For a moment, let the outside voices weigh in, because they belonged in the conversation before this weekend, not just after. In June, before this Wimbledon began, the 4-time Grand Slam champion and Hall of Famer Kim Clijsters was asked in a video preview to name a player she was excited about on the women's side. Her answer, on tape, without prompting, for me, on the women's side, it was, I think, Eala. You know, she beat Donna Vekic, and I was like, oh, that's a good win. That quote matters not because Clijsters is famous. It matters because she said it before the Swiatek match, not after. This is not hindsight. This is a Hall of Fame player watching the tour and identifying an active live threat during the grass swing, the same swing that days later would carry Eala from a Berlin win over Vekic to a round of 16 at Wimbledon. And Swiatek herself, in her own pre-match remarks, treated Eala as a real problem to be solved, not a name to be dismissed. She acknowledged not fully knowing the grass version of Eala's game. She spoke with respect. This is the kind of respect champions extend to each other, not the kind veterans give to novelties. Eala was not underestimated by anybody who was paying attention. She was underestimated only by the headline that assumed her name had to be Shocking to be worth saying out loud. Now, the wider frame, because Filipino tennis is not just Alex Eala, and Alex Eala's win is not just Alex Eala's win. The Philippines is a country of roughly 110 million people. Its tennis infrastructure is, by any honest measure, thin. The country has not historically been a factory for professional players. What Eala inherited was not a system pushing her up. It was a family and a small circle of coaches and a lot of hours. She said as much on court in her own words. That is the personal side. The public side is what happened during the match. Cameras at the All England Club caught Filipino fans on Henman Hill watching her play, holding on to every point. That is a diaspora with a physical footprint at Wimbledon, not just an online one. The Roland Garros official social account posted her name after the match. The federations pay attention because the tour is paying attention. And this matters not just because it is emotionally satisfying. It matters because the market for tennis in the Philippines, the coaching, the courts, the sponsorship, the belief a 9-year-old with a racket has about what is available to her, expands with every match Eala wins in front of these cameras. A first round of 16 at Wimbledon is not just a personal milestone. It is a permission slip issued by a 21-year-old to everyone behind her. The permission says this is possible. It says it in a language that a ranking sheet cannot say it. None of this is inevitable. It is worth remembering how fragile it can look from close up. Just 1 week ago, on the grass at Bad Homburg in Germany, Eala lost her opening singles match to Elise Mertens, 3-3 in straight sets. Not a heartbreaker, not a marathon, a routine, one-sided loss on the same surface she would be walking onto at Wimbledon days later. There was no obvious storyline arriving out of that afternoon. Earlier in her career, she has dealt with a shoulder injury that ended her 2025 North American hard court swing. She knows what it feels like to lose. Asked in her Wimbledon press conference about what she loves most about being a professional tennis player, she answered without pausing to sound polished. "I love facing the pressure moments head on," she said. "I love coming out of those moments stronger than I was when I entered it." That is a sentence you file away. She said it 2 days before she beat the defending champion. The pressure moment was already on the schedule. She was already answering the question. Which brings us to Monday. The Wimbledon Round of 16, Manic Monday as the tournament calls it, will be played on the 6th of July, and Eala's opponent will be settled from the other side of her section of the draw later today. In her second round press conference, Eala explained the Tagalog phrase stitched on her Nike sweatshirt and the back of her visor. It reads, "Kapag lumago, hindi na hihinto." Her own translation, given on the record, "Once it grows, it cannot be stopped." She said it before she beat Iga Swiatek. It was already on her clothing when the tiebreak went to 11-9. It was already on her clothing when the third match point went in. The phrase does not read as prophecy now. It reads as description. Alex Eala is the first Filipina ever in the round of 16 at Wimbledon, but that is the smaller headline. The larger one is that she is not surprised to be here, and neither, if we are being honest, is anyone who was paying attention to the grass court swing this June. She is the 29th seed, she is ranked 32nd, she is 2 wins from a Grand Slam semifinal, and she is on the order of play on Monday. That last detail is the one that matters most. She is not a wild card visiting the second week. She is a listed occupant. The paper and the match agree now. The ruffled socks are on the schedule. She belongs in the room, on the court, on the draw sheet, on the list. And once it grows, she has already told us it cannot be stopped. If this story is worth your time, hit the subscribe button and stay with us through Monday, because whatever happens next, we will be here for the point that decides it.